Hello, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Dodger, and this is KartKraft, version 0.1.0.1435, and we're going to check out this game today and see what it is like. I've actually been following KartKraft for many years now, through different iterations, different names, and periods of time in which we thought KartKraft was gone. Well, KartKraft is not gone. It is back, and it is now released to the public and undergoing some pretty serious development. What is KartKraft? Essentially, it is a sim racing karting game. This is not Mario Kart. This is not an arcade racer. This is an actual focused sim karting game, which I think is the first of its kind. There's been mods, there's been karting games, but this has got to be the most serious take on karting that I have ever seen. If you're sitting there on the fence wondering whether you're going to buy this or not, and you're looking for judgment from me to make your decision, here's what I'll say. If you're the kind of person that loves to see the games develop or sims develop in front of your eyes, then this is probably the kind of game for you. If you're the person that doesn't want to pay money for a game that doesn't have a lot of base content, as of right now, this is not the game for you. As of right now, we can do free play and we can do leaderboard. I need to get a little bit better reacquainted with the game, so I'm going to go to free play for right now. There are a few tracks you can choose, and these are all based on real life karting facilities, and I'm going to choose the Go-Kart Club of Victoria to get us started. These developers are from the land down under, so I think a lot of the tracks are based on those down there. But me personally, I know of karting. I have, a very basic understanding of it, but no personal experience with any real karting. So all of this is pretty fresh and pretty new to me. So the fact that the tracks are in Australia is really not a big deal to me. They could be 3 miles down the road from me and I wouldn't really know. So here we are out in basically an open practice session, and to start with, I have to say there's some real positives for me with the game as of right now, and those are the configurability, the ability to launch the game and go, and the way it looks. So the configurability, everything that you want to be able to adjust, you can. All of that stuff is already built into the UI. If you wanted to adjust your steering settings, it's got all the presets there. I have a Logitech G27. I used that preset. It was fine. It works exactly as I would expect it to. The UI is fantastic. It all works with mouse and keyboard, which is what I want. And yeah, there's all the settings for force feedback and different things you can do there. For now, I'm basically going to be running everything mostly default. I have to put in some pedal stuff because of the wear on my pedals. I need some dead zones on them. But other than that, everything else basically as the game is shipped. And I think that's probably the best way to do this, so that we can get as good an idea as possible what the product is here for right now. I am not a game reviewer, and I don't intend to be, but I know that people look to get my opinion on such things, so I want to be able to provide that. But as we leave the pits here, I must say, I have been following this game for a very, very long time. I was in the closed beta a couple years ago, and I was honestly quite distraught about the fact that this game had seemingly gone away. It seemed as though this game had ceased development, and unbeknownst to me, it was actually undergoing quite a large transformation. And the product that we have been presented with now is extremely impressive. It looks really great. It's so surprising to me that this has to be one of the most niche sim racers to ever be created. Karting as a whole, now this is from an American's perspective, but karting as a whole is an incredibly small sector of racing, and I can't imagine that there is a huge amount of people out there looking for sim karting games. That said, it's incredible that they can make a game that looks this good, is this detailed, and right out of the box works so well, and it really has left me with a good impression. The things that I'm very passionate about mostly have to do with level and track design, and right out of the gate, it's looking very good and it feels very good. You can see the bumps, you can see the wear. I think that's a big part of it. You see the tires are getting like overgrown and put into the earth. Everything looks like it's been here for a long time. And I think that's probably one of the hardest things to do on a track design standpoint, is to make the world look used and lived in. The track looks used and everything just looks like it actually belongs here. Nothing is pristine and perfect. For a game that is, you know, like I said, such a niche title, and someone's gonna be making fun of the way I say niche, and I don't care. It's just really impressive to me. And that's not even going into the driving physics part of it. We'll get to there in a minute. I'm just trying to like slowly work myself up to this here. But yeah, the world looks great, and the kart detail looks really great. Here, there's the outside view of the kart. There's all the different views. I mean, look at the... Here, let me stop for a second. Look at the detail here in the suspension components and whatnot. Something I noticed in messing around is, I mean, you can see the kart is moving as I am moving the wheels, because, you know, the chassis is flexing. When I turn all the way left, it's going to lift this left front wheel off the ground and it will start to rotate. When I turn right, you can see, because of the steering geometry, what I'm doing there is actually turning further right, and it's actually going to pull the left wheel out. So the right wheel is turning further right, but the left wheel is getting pulled in. That's the level of detail we're talking about in like the suspension geometry and stuff, and the graphical representation of those parts. I've seen a lot of the promo stuff is using this view, because I think it does a very good job of showing you some of that detail. The tough part is karting, because of the scale, it may happen at very low speeds in comparison to what I think people are used to in a racing game or a racing sim, but the scale of everything is so small that it all happens very, very fast, and it's actually hard for your brain to keep up with. One thing that I find interesting is that this is the level you start with. I feel like, honestly, and I hope that this is a future play, maybe it's not, but I hope that it is. I hope there's something below this, because I feel like if this is the kart we start with, and everybody's going to start with, the barrier of entry is going to be pretty high, because even with pretty significant sim racing experience and, you know, a little bit of karting experience, this is pretty intense. It's certainly not easy, and I like that. I like that they didn't try to numb down karting to try and make it accessible to everybody, but I can already tell that a lot of people are going to get probably turned off from this just because of that barrier to entry. So I do hope that there is some junior karts, something a little bit lower than this, to help people get into it. I know that's probably not the priority right now. The development is much more focused on, you know, is the game working for, you know, the core audience, and then we can expand it from there. I can tell that they are planning for even crazier than this, because they have control schemes and whatnot ready for shifter karts. If you don't know anything about karting, this is a centrifugal clutch kart. It means it is one gear, one speed, and it just uses a clutch to disengage and let it coast. You really see what I'm talking about the bumps and the fact that everything just feels very lived in, which is a weird phrase, I think, but it just feels very real world. It doesn't feel like it's too nice, which is a hole that I feel a lot of even sim racers fall into. I think that about Assetto Corsa a lot of times. Things just seem too polished. And this isn't looking that way either in graphics or in feel. So I said the word feel, we gotta talk about physics. First up, major thumbs up. Any developer that can make their game work with native wheel rotation levels, instantly 2 thumbs up for me. And this is doing that. I have my wheel set to 900 degrees, and the game automatically knows to soft lock the wheel at 180, because racing karts do not steer beyond 180 degrees most of the time, which means 90 left, 90 right. That being said, with the default force feedback, it's brutal. It is very brutal. It is actually some of the most harsh force feedback that I think I have experienced, and that's pretty accurate because my limited karting experience is that if your forearms aren't ready, you're going to be in trouble. You will hurt after you get out of that kart because there is no suspension travel, there is no power steering. It is just your arm muscle pushing that kart around, and because of that you get an incredible amount of tire feel. There's nothing between you and the friction of the road. And I think we're doing a pretty good job of representing that here. In the earlier builds of even this new released version, I was having some troubles feeling the understeer, but even in the last couple weeks, they've really been tuning on it, and I think working on presets for all the different wheels. And we're there now. It's good. It's very good. There's some holes in it. There's maybe a little bit of a lack of feel in weight. Even though this is, a solid suspension vehicle, there is still some shifting weight and some chassis movement and such that I'm not really picking up on. The feeling of when I lock those rear tires up. Racing karts are rear braked, and the feeling of locking those rear tires up and skipping on the ground, that's another thing that I'm maybe missing in force feedback. It would help, since we don't have force feedback brake pedals, it would help with that feeling of knowing when enough brake is enough brake. And I see that in some of the better simulation force feedback models out there, is that they'll tie in a little bit of that braking force feedback into the steering. Braking is difficult. Having just rear brakes and having basically no engine braking is it's a bizarre feeling, to be honest. If you're not used to it, it's quite bizarre. And I think the hardest part of it is finding the edge, finding the limits, because it's all scaled. It's exactly what you would think. It's everything's so small. Look at how small the tire is. The amount of grip you have there is amazing, but then you jump over it really fast. And I think that's the hardest part, is learning where the limits are and being able to feel where the limits are. But it's certainly getting better with that, and I think with enough time, I'm able to get there. As of right now, we're only running solo on the track. They have the hot lap mode, which will allow you to go against ghosts. There's no AI yet. It's definitely coming. There's no multiplayer yet, but that's also coming. But for right now, it is enjoyable to get a good feel for it, to feel like you can have some kind of idea of what you're going to expect. And what it's going to be like. I do very much so look forward to being able to be out here with other karts. I also look forward to hopefully having some different classes of kart. And more than anything, I'm just looking forward to learning a new style of racing. Karting is an extremely important part of the real racing ladder, and it's always been missing from the sim racing ladder. So it's interesting to see it now develop. Unfortunately, after I've already, gone up the sim racing ladder, but that doesn't mean there's no lessons to be learned. And if you look at most any Formula One driver, they still go back to karting. They still use karting to keep sharp. And I can see why. It's just so driver dependent. Your inputs, your controls matter so much more in this than in a modern, F1 car. So if you can become the best of this, then you can really say that it was your driver's skill mostly that got you there. Just like anything, money will get you there too. But as you can see, my driver skill is lacking, and that's why I sim race and I don't real race. But it's very cool to see this much detail and effort being put into karting. There's a lot of development left to do here. I am not going to overdo it. I'm not going to make a bunch of videos. I'm not going to do streaming. I'm not going to push or put a lot of emphasis on KartKraft. I just want to give it time to develop, and when it's ready, I'll be ready to really go in depth with it. I just wanted to give a short and somewhat informal, but I think important, impression of what KartKraft might be. And as of right now, it's going to be, without a doubt, the most impressive and most in-depth kart sim that we've ever had. Out on a different course, one I'm a little less freshly reminded of, but I have done laps here. Other than that, the game runs very smoothly. The sounds are good. We're getting plenty of tire noise. The visuals are really great, and the user interface, like I said, I'm really impressed with and happy with. The ability to slide on the brakes is there. There's a pretty good feel. I do definitely feel like I skate on the world a little bit more than I expected, but having so little karting experience, I don't know how to judge the realism of that. Oh, even that's improved since I last played, actually. The rev limiter kicking in. Really. This build is only a couple weeks from what I first started with, and the improvements are there. The feel is really getting dialed in. See it just wanting to slide out there. It's weird because you don't oversteer like with a car. It's very different because of the power delivery. And because you have a locked rear differential, actually no rear differential, the power delivery is just very strange. The oversteer is strange. It's almost more of a not chassis oversteer, but just a weight shift oversteer. You're just rotating around rather than it being like a overpowering the rear wheels kind of deal. Wow, the way it bounces through the turns. If you need a sim racing experience that's a workout, I can only imagine what this would be like with a direct drive wheel or something really strong. Because the first day it was released, I spent a few hours in game and I was beat. I was exhausted. Inbound in. That was one of the things I struggled with day one, was keeping that straight line down the straightaways, but I feel like they've gotten the force feedback better now. It's pointing me straight better. Very good. Very, very good. If you're... oh, man. If you're at all interested in racing and sim racing, I think this is going to be one to watch. But I'm gonna stop jabbering there. I feel like I've gotten a point. I've gotten across the points I wanted to make. It's one to watch. It's one I'll be watching, and I look forward to the day that we can really dedicate a good amount of time to what is hopefully going to be a completed KartKraft. Thank you as always for watching, and I will see you next time. Well, there's your problem. Alright, I'm pressing the top of my face, now what?